Greetings, everybody. Nina the Mystic here, and welcome to another SINDAY Live. Today we have a very special guest. His name is Christopher Jon Bjerknes, and he is here. I'm going to bring him on and see if we can't figure this out. Can you hear me now?
I was able to hear the intro music, but I am not able to hear you.
That is very bizarre. So we're all able to hear and see you just fine. Milky's here. I see. Milky, do you have any suggestions as to what could be happening on his end? We're going to communicate a little private here. If we can't figure this out. Yeah, I don't know. It's got to be something that's not plugged in, like either the headphones.
I can see you talking, but I can't hear a word.
Right.
Absolutely no sound whatsoever.
And yet you heard the intro. Isn't that weird? So we're having interference, guys. We're having interference, okay? I'm going to see. Milky, what could be the problem? Could you figure that out? He could hear the intro, but he can't hear me talking. Change his mic or speaker destination. Can you see the chat? See if you can see the chat so that he, you can, but I don't know. Let's see if that.
I'm afraid I can't hear anything that you're saying. I can see your lips moving.
Okay.
I can see myself, and I could hear the introduction when you started the show, but now I can't hear anything.
Look at the chat. The chat. Private chat. The chat. We have a private chat here that we can chat, but I don't know if we can see it. Yeah, this is very frustrating. So, you know, this is one of those things where the things that we're going to be talking about today is going to be very controversial, and I'm not surprised that we are having interference. This is the first time I've ever had this. Okay. What did you suggest? Have a fresh start. Go out and come back. Okay, he did that once already. Change his mic. Speaker destination. It's the first time that he's using Melon probably, and so it might be a little bit different than the other streaming services. I don't know. I've actually never been a guest on Melon before. You know, I'm always on this end, but it's got to be something very simple.
I unplugged my headset, and it's still not working. Again, I could hear the intro music. My computer is set up to feed through my headset, so I don't know what's wrong.
Unplug headset and try the computer speakers. Yeah, hopefully he can see the actual YouTube chat.
I tried that, and it didn't work.
Didn't work. Okay. Okay.
I don't think the problem is the connection of my speakers. I think the problem is your feed isn't sending any sound.
That is strange. Oh, that's not spelled right. That's the first time that's ever happened. I don't know. I don't know what to suggest. Like I said, I've never had this before. What's Rob saying? I know we can hear him just fine, right? Everything is fine on my end. Happened to me once. I had to check audio setup several times. Okay. So this is something that
Could you try
here.
saying something now?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Can you hear us
Yeah, I
now?
switched over to my Yeti mic for
Oh,
for my headset, and that fixed it.
okay,
So
there you go. I
thank you
knew it
to
was just
whoever
something.
suggested.
Thank you, Robert. So Robert is also a live streamer, Milky Way Soul Tribe. Make sure you go and subscribe over there. He's my co-host here for a lot of the shows, and so yeah, he's got more experience on the melon than I do because I'm always on this end. So, anyways, let's start all over again, then, shall we? Welcome, Christopher. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. Sorry about the glitch in the
That's
intro.
okay. That's live for you. That's the thing. We could have pre-recorded. That's a lot. Most people do that, and that way they can edit, and all these kind of snafus are, taken out. But we're going live, and I wouldn't be surprised that there is some interference, honestly, with the stuff that we're about to talk about. The powers to be, they're gonna try whatever to not have this kind of stuff go out there. And there's another thing too that I'm doing tonight is I'm going live on 2 channels at the same time. So I have 2 channels going. So that's the first time I'm doing that. So I was, that could have been something too. But everything seems to be going just smoothly on my end. But yeah, I'm glad that you're here and that you made it. And so the first time I have people on, I like to have them kind of introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about who you are, what made you write this book, and just a little bit more about you, because I don't really know anything about you other than I've seen you on Writer's Show a couple of times now. You've been a fairly regular guest over there, and I got your book, which I hope the rest of you will get as well. And I got to admit, though, I haven't read the whole thing. It is a big book, a lot of material in here. However, I did skip to the end chapter, and I'm like, oh my God, okay, this just makes a lot of sense. And then, of course, I've binge watched a lot of your videos, and I find getting the information through the videos is a little bit easier for me. But if you don't mind, I don't think a lot of people know who you are. So maybe just introduce yourself a little briefly, and then we can go from there.
I'm Christopher Jon Bjerknes. I am a writer and a researcher. I got started writing about the history of physics and especially relativity theory. And that led me into a lot of political issues that I started to cover. And ever since my childhood, I have been researching the origins of Judaism, Christianity, and to a far lesser degree, Islam. And that research, even when I was a child, I was very much aware that Christianity was related to Platonism and Greek thought, and that the more I delved into it, the more I realized that Judaism also drew very heavily from the Greeks and very many other sources, and that it was not monotheistic. And the whole conception of who the devil is and the role that he plays in Judaism and Christianity, and the emergence of a political androgyny agenda, especially in Western and American politics, inspired me to write my book, Beware the World to Come, because I realized that there was a very heavy early Gnostic push to make humanity androgynous, because the gods themselves, the Elohim that human beings were created in the image of, were thought to be androgynous. And they viewed it as a catastrophe that Eve was separated from Adam, and that the soul of Adam was cut in half and separated from itself. And when that occurred, it happened to all of humanity because Adam had all the souls of all future human beings within his androgynous being, and that the goal of Kabbalah and Gnosticism is to restore that androgyny to humanity. And I perceive that as very much involved in the current political and religious agenda to fulfill those ancient plans.
Yes, I totally resonate with what you're saying, and whatever I've seen in the videos, I totally resonate. It kind of puts some puzzle pieces together of, some of the religious stuff, but what's also going on in today and the agenda that's happening for those of us who are awake. It totally does make a total sense to me, with the agendas, because that's what they're pushing on the kids now. Yeah, and that's what Hollywood has been pushing. I just resonate with all of it, most of it, I should say. I'm, read all your stuff, but yeah, it's, I think you're onto something here, and it's something that needs to be talked about. And unfortunately, just like with a lot of things, the subject of the particular people that we're talking about has been gaslit so bad. We're not allowed to talk about that. The whole World War II, what happened there at the time. Nobody won that war, by the way, but they gaslit it so bad. We're not allowed to talk about it. And when I'm thinking back, because I grew up in Europe, thinking back, I remember my grandpa was really mad at those particular people, but we weren't allowed to talk about that. Like, it was like after the war, it was like zip. Nobody's allowed to talk about it. And I just never really thought about it much either. I just grew up, whatever, into other things. But thinking back now, I wish I could have a conversation with him about exactly what was going on, and why is it that everybody was so against these people. And now I kind of get it. It's a 6,000 year conspiracy, I guess you could say, an agenda that these people have had towards us. And when you start looking in, who's who anywhere, it's all them. They're all over the place. They're everywhere. I'm almost afraid to almost say the words, because I know it's going to get flagged, and there's going to trigger a lot of people, because it's been so gaslit. We're not allowed to talk about it. It's just one of those things we can't talk about. And you see it in society today. The white, especially white men, are being canceled right now. Everybody's against white people, and especially men. And you can't talk about that either. We're not allowed to be proud of being white, but we can be proud of being whatever else. And it's just, this whole thing is just, we're being gaslit. All of us are being gaslit, and I can totally see that whole agenda is really playing out now. This really is the end times.
Yes, absolutely. And it is the fulfillment of plans that were expressly written down and stated. And I've documented all of those plans, which makes it even more absurd that it cannot be discussed publicly, because it is a factual and very rationally hashed out history, and it is proven, and it is a threat to all of humanity. They are specifically targeting Europeans because they view Europeans as their primary competition and as the threat that forced them into the diaspora, which they had planned hundreds of years before it took place. So what we can conclude from this is that they have tremendous amount of power. They have the power to silence us. They have the power to rule over us and govern our fate, and that they exercise this power in malicious ways. The fact that they deny our fundamental human rights to free speech while declaring that they are the champions of free speech evinces their power, their hypocrisy, and their malice. And the fact that they view us as a people who must be enslaved, and that they have the right to enslave us because they view themselves as being superior to us and as being themselves gods. And they view us as being parts of the material world and elements of darkness which prevent their light from shining through. So they have to eliminate us as if we were simply barriers to their power and their existence. And they feel that they have to completely eliminate us before that 6,000 years that you alluded to expires.
Yes. which isn't very long as far as human history. 6,000 years is not very long, really. I'm
No,
assuming
they
we've been.
try to run the clock from the mythology that they have of Adam, and they believe that Adam was created at the beginning of the age of Taurus.
Mhm.
And instead of conceiving of the ages as being 2,160 years, as the Romans and Greeks did, they perceived them to be 2,000-year periods. And so they viewed creation of Adam as the beginning of the age of Taurus. Then there was the change of the ages to Aries, in which they perceived that to be their era. And in dispensationalism, it is called their era. The first era was called the era of the patriarchs, which corresponds to Taurus. Aries corresponds to them. Pisces, the Leviathan fish, corresponds to Christianity. And the next age, Aquarius, is what they view as the kingdom of Malkut on the tree of life. At the very bottom, the very last emanation is the kingdom and the earth. And they call what is to come the world to come, Olam Haba. And that 6,000-year period of the 6 days of creation, it says in Psalms and elsewhere that each day is considered to be 1,000 years, is the period of rectification of the world, the period of Tikkun Olam. Tikkun is rectification, Olam is world, and the world that they have to rectify is the present world, Olam Hazeh. And the present world has Europeans, Africans, and Asians in it, and they believe that those people have to be eliminated because they are what is described as the other side, the Sitra Achra, the Sitra de Smola, which is the left-hand side. They perceive themselves to be the holy side, the Sitra de Kadosha, or the Sitra Yemina, the right-hand side. So they believe that there are two sides. There's an evil side and there's a holy side. They represent the side of holiness. They were created by the divine gods, and the other side was created by the evil gods. And they believe that these gods are androgynous, and their gods, the male aspect of their godhead is Yahweh, and the female aspect of their godhead is Shekinah. And like Adam, they were initially androgynous. They got separated, which was a calamity, and they have to be reunited in androgynous form by rebuilding the Temple of Solomon. And this will usher in the world to come, Olam Haba, and in the world to come, the other side, who are likened to Esau, the twin of Jacob, and called Edom, the Edomites. They have to be exterminated in order for the world to be rectified. So though they portray this process of Tikkun Olam, sifting out the what they call the shells, the Kelipat, that entrap the divine sparks in darkness. Part of that process is eliminating the human beings of the other side who do not have divine souls. They have 3 spheres of satanic souls, according to these beliefs.
Yes, one thing that you said that I think is important to get out there is like, it doesn't matter what we believe, whether you're a Christian or you're a Satanist or whatever you are, it doesn't matter what you believe, is that they believe it. And that's the scary thing. They're still believing and carrying out the agenda that they started 6,000 years ago. And I know Christians thinking, oh, well, I'm going to be saved. Jesus is going to save me and all of this. No, that's not the case. Matter of fact, they're going after the Christians. They want to eliminate it. Am I right? Is that?
Yes, in their
Yeah.
view, Jesus is in fact Satan, Samael. Satan is also an androgynous being originally, and Satan's male aspect is Samael, and his female aspect is Lilith. And Jesus represents Samael. And this was clear to the early Christians, and Christianity was created as a trap to ensnare the Europeans into worshiping Satan, giving up all of their indigenous gods and supernatural protection, and instead adopting this religion of the other side that was created for them. And the early Christians, the Gnostics, portrayed Jesus in this way as the serpent who was hung on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And they portrayed him as if the good God, because he allowed humanity to have knowledge. So that is why it was called Gnosticism. Gnosticism refers to the Greek word gnosis, for knowledge. So Jesus is the serpent who provides knowledge. And Yahweh, the God of the supposed holy side, is portrayed as the evil god Yalta Baoth, the demiurge who created the world in Gnosticism. So everything gets inverted because they view all the other people as being the complete opposite of what they are, and they conceive of two different universes. They exist in a holy universe, and all the rest of humanity exists in this evil universe of the other side, the Sitra Achra, in which their godhead is Samael, Lilith, the devil. And Jesus is the devil. He was called the devil throughout the New Testament by those around him. The Gnostics thought that the devil was the good guy because he provided the knowledge that would allow the human soul to return to the Holy One, the ultimate Godhead. They didn't perceive him in the way that Orthodox Christianity now perceives him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gotta say, the amount of blasphemy in your videos is hilarious. Some of those videos I was watching, and you're laughing through the whole thing too. You can't really, I mean, the Christians are really going to get triggered by some of this stuff, right? But I mean, you're pretty much covering, trigger points for everyone, to be honest. But I love it. I mean,
well, there are Kabbalistic texts which state exactly what I'm saying. And if people look up Moshe Idel, an Israeli scholar, he unearthed a couple of very important Kabbalistic texts in the British Museum, and people can look those up. They have scans of them. And Moshe Idel translated big parts of those. And it expressly states exactly what I said, that Jesus is Samael, Jesus is Satan, Jesus will return as the Antichrist to kill all the Christians. We have found the Gospel of Judas, in which Jesus says that he sent his apostles out as deceivers to set up Christians, to ultimately kill them all off. The Apocalypse of Abraham, which was written concurrently with the first gospel that was written, the Gospel of Mark, that many people conceive of as the Kvela, the original source. And it also states that Jesus is Satan and that his purpose is to deceive the other side and lead them into extermination. And the early Christians were headed down that path because they would abort all of their children. They conceived of it as if it were evil to trap the spark, the divine spark, in the corpse of flesh, the prison of flesh in the material world. They viewed the material world as the kingdom of hell, and that all of humanity, if they wanted to be Christians, was better off giving up their body and releasing their divine spark. So it was initially set up as a trap to be a suicidal mythology that would, one, destroy all of the gods who had given the Romans, the Greeks, and the Egyptians their supernatural protection, and replace it with a demon god whose purpose was to completely destroy them. And another thing that I discovered is that Jesus is the winepress treading God throughout the New Testament. He is the grapevine, which is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And Jesus hanging on the cross represents the serpent hanging on the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And the Gnostics expressly stated that that's who he was. And the Eucharist is actually the venom of the serpent. It is the unripened wine that is made from Jesus's blood, and it poisons Christians deliberately. And the mythology holds that eventually, after the 6,000 years the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil becomes ripe. But until it becomes ripe, it leads to disaster. It produces a knowledge that generates deadly technology, which the other side uses against itself to exterminate itself, like biological weapons, nuclear weapons, GMOs, all the things which are leading to the complete destruction of the human genome and the eradication of humanity is the direction that we're headed in. And this was the plan from the beginning, that this unripened wine that Christians consume in the Eucharist, and I have Kabbalistic texts which expressly state that that blood of Christ is the venom of the serpent that kills the Christians. And so Jesus is this winepress treading God, but that God was described in Isaiah 63 in the Old Testament. And then Jesus is the winepress treading God in the book of Revelation. And what that meant is the Egyptians had a god named Shesmu. And Shesmu would cut off human heads and collect them in bunches, which were represented in the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs and their art as bunches of grapes. And Shesmu would harvest these human heads and tread them in the winepress. And the winepress, his name is actually written with a hieroglyph of a winepress. And he would extract the blood of humanity because it would contain the magical energy of human beings, and he would feed it to the god Unas. And Christianity adopts this Egyptian mythology and makes out of that winepress treading God Jesus Christ, who treads on the heads of all Christians, extracts their blood, martyrs them, and then gives that energy over to the God Yahweh. And another big aspect of the Christian myth is that Jesus is the scapegoat. And on Yom Kippur, they had always offered up 2 goats as sacrifices. And the purpose of the scapegoat was to transfer all the sins from the holy side, which wasn't so holy, to the other side and unjustly blame them for all the sins of the holy nation. And that is exactly what Jesus is portrayed as. He is the scapegoat who saves the holy nation by transferring all of their sins to the other side. So it was a form of a magical process of then turning the devil, who I should specify that the many roles of Satan are played by Jesus Christ. And Satan is the tempter of sin. Satan is the accuser of sin, the prosecutor of sin, and the punisher of sin. But on Yom Kippur, the holy nation's sins are going to be put on trial in the heavenly court. The 7 children of the gods sit on that court, and Satan is the prosecutor, and Yahweh is the judge who can provide mercy. So what they do is they push a goat off the edge of a cliff on Yom Kippur in the wilderness, because the wilderness is Satan's mansion. And Satan becomes confused by this gift, by this offering, this sacrifice, and he becomes the advocate of the sinners of the holy nation and transfers all of their sins onto the other side, so that all of Christendom becomes burdened with sin, gets damned, gets prosecuted, gets punished for the sins of the holy nation, and takes them all on, and in that way ultimately becomes the race which is exterminated to redeem the supposedly holy race.
Yeah, well, in the Bible, it does say, Jesus says he's coming back with the sword. He's not coming back all love and light like people think he is. If he is coming back, he is coming back with a sword. So, I mean, it's right there in the Bible. And it's kind of
Oh,
weird how...
absolutely. All you have to do is decode what the Bible is really saying. And what it's really saying is that Jesus is going to descend from the heavens and destroy all of humanity, which has been persecuting this holy people, these children of the gods, as Psalms 82:6 says, and he's going to wipe them out. the Christ returns as the Antichrist. And I have specific Kabbalistic statements where it states exactly that in the Sefer HaMashiv and the Sefer HaKeteret. It exactly says that. And Abraham Abulafia was another very famous ecstatic Kabbalist who said that Jesus is in fact Samael and will return as the Antichrist to smite the Christians. And this Antichrist figure, and Jesus himself, was literally the son of Joseph. And people need to understand that in Judaism, there are two messiahs. There's the Messiah of the other side, Messiah, son of Joseph, who is presented to them as their king and spiritual leader and God who will supposedly save them. But he is actually working for the holy side to undermine them and to set them up for this ultimate destruction. And the first way that he destroys them is he encourages them to abandon their families, to give up having children, to give up wealth, to martyr themselves, to accept injustice against them, to abandon all of their traditions, all of their original indigenous gods, to destroy all of their history and instead adopt the mythological history of the holy people as if there were some divinity in it. And so this created the Dark Ages. When Christianity took over Europe, they gave up the wonders of the ancient world and didn't recover them again until the Renaissance, when they started to pursue reason and logic and the ancient philosophers whose philosophies were grounded in their so-called pagan gods.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Now, in the Bible, it says something about Jesus is coming down in the clouds or something like that. Now, nowadays, we can kind of figure that's got to be some kind of spaceship of some sort. I mean, guy doesn't just appear on the clouds, but it's coming down in some kind of ship. Now, right now, the whole alien thing is very hot. And the buzz is that there's going to be some kind of fake alien invasion coming up. And that's what they're gearing for. Now, could this Jesus whatever thing be coming down in some spaceship here? What do you think of that?
I've been working very heavily on that.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that Ryder and I were on top of. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Christianity has conditioned people to expect that both salvation and deadly judgment will arrive from the heavens. And it created also this mythology of the rapture, which can be portrayed as UFO abductions.
Mm-hmm.
It creates this whole mythology of, and this is also a very strong part of Merkava, mysticism, Kabbalah, and Judaism, is this idea of ascension. We had Enoch ascend to heaven and become the archangel Metatron. We had Elijah ascend to heaven and become the archangel Sandalphon. There is Jacob's ladder. In Ezekiel chapter 1 and chapter 10, it talks about this mystical chariot, which can be perceived as a UFO. The Holy of Holies is a black cube. The New Jerusalem of the book of Revelations is a black cube. And they are now portraying UFOs that the government is talking about without showing any real proof or evidence, as if they are dark gray or black cubes. So I think absolutely they are setting us up. Christianity conditioned us to look to the heavens for salvation and to seek to be raptured by these descending forces that will suck you up into heaven. And then it separates humanity into the righteous and the wicked. So there is also the judgment, and these forces which descend in the clouds from the heavens will slaughter the vast majority of humanity, all of humanity, which is not raptured except for the 144,000 virginal males who will inherit the world to come.
Right.
So again, it is not that all of this was prophecy. It was a plan, and they are fulfilling that plan. And even our government, and this is what really scares me, Our government is participating in it. It is gaslighting people, and it is setting us up. And we have had whistleblowers telling us that the government would do this. Bill Cooper and a woman named Rosin, who was working with Venner von Braun, decades ago, were warning us that this was coming, that they would fake an alien invasion, that what I can see are strong religious overtones would be a part of it. And that's also a strong tell, is because there are two different calendar systems. The Freemasons and the Shabbatayan Kabbalists use the Anno Lucas calendar, and the year 6000 on the Anno Lucas calendar was the year 2000. And when the world didn't end in the year 2000, we had 9/11 in 2001, which set us up for an apocalyptic situation in which they could end the world. And then on the Anno Mundi calendar, which is also the Hebrew calendar, it's 240 years behind. So they want to accomplish all of that right now. So it's certainly not coincidental that all these events are taking place in the present. This is all part of the plan. It's being scripted, and they are using ufology and extraterrestrial mythology as a cover for carrying out their religious agendas. And those religious agendas are horrifying. They call for the complete destruction of the earth and the destruction of humanity. And another one of the insights I've had recently is that they're applying ancient alchemy to the universe and to human beings. They are messing around with the elements of the atmosphere to make the atmosphere cold and dark, to block out the sunlight. And they are starting massive forest fires. And the Talmud and the Kabbalah say that demons feed off of those fires and feed off of coldness and darkness. And a man named Rudolf Steiner, who was a philosopher in the early 20th centuries, kind of a prominent figure, well-funded, heavily connected with the Theosophical Society, said that artificial intelligence would arrive in the form of spider-like robots that would be created out of material and would lack the divine soul of the higher beings, like plants, animals, and human beings have souls that supposedly descended from the other planets to the earth. But the earth is composed of material chaos and has no soul other than the demonic soul of Satan, because this is Satan's kingdom. And Steiner predicted from 1914 through 1921 that human beings would generate what could be described as the internet and computers that would have this demonic soul of chaos and a very high state of wisdom. Chaos is said to be wisdom. And that the demonic souls of hell would enter into these robots and they would become demonic beings, and that they would convert the whole earth into a place of hell. And again, the role of Satan is to tempt sin, accuse sin, prosecute, punish, and then damn people. And that's what AI is being used to do. It's being used to watch us. It's being used to tempt us. It's being used to accuse us, and it's being used to punish us.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like AI, that's what we got going on. See, nowadays we can kind of wrap our minds around this. 20 years ago, we'd be like, yeah, whatever, what are you talking about? But now we can really see it, the whole depopulation agenda. I mean, everybody can see it now. It's
And that's a
very,
big
very,
failure that we have not, they have succeeded is the problem. And we have failed to prevent this. Believe it or not, 20 years ago, I was warning that these things were coming, and people
right.
couldn't even begin to comprehend
No,
that what I was saying was even possible. But
I
now
know.
we see that it's not only possible, it's manifest.
Yes, I know. I woke up a few years ago, but not quick enough, unfortunately. I mean, yeah, 2009, I think it was, when we had that swine flu. That's when they were planning on doing this, that they did 3 years ago. But for some reason, they delayed it. I'm not sure why. But
They've been planning this for 2,300 years. There were the 10
yeah,
plagues of Egypt,
yeah,
and we
right.
have the plagues of disease striking us now. And
Hmm.
in the medieval Kabbalistic texts, they said that there would be this return of these 10 plagues, that there would be a period of extreme heat, that there would be a period of extreme disease, a period of extreme famine. And we're seeing that they're engineering all of these things through this planetary alchemy. But they are also one of the key aspects of alchemy is that they always wanted to create human beings in glass flasks out of male seed. And the ancient mythology of Aristotle and some of the others disagreed with this. So it wasn't a universal belief of the ancients, but many of the ancients believed that it was only the male seed that produced human beings, and that the female was more of a vessel, and that the blood of the female's womb would nourish that seed and cause the child to grow, and that they could replace that by putting putrefied male seed into a glass flask and then providing nourishment to that seed. And they called these little men that they would create homunculi. And we see that they are now developing laboratories where they can create human beings out of male seed. And they have refined a way of converting men's skin cells into egg cells. So a single man can now create a homunculi of himself, a clone of himself. It's not so much a clone as a new being made out of an egg cell and a sperm cell in a laboratory setting. And they have developed this technology, and they're about to start using it. And they have also developed the technologies, or are working on the technologies, to make these babies androgynous, to have both male and female characteristics, and immortal as well. So what they have done is they're attempting to replicate what they believe that Adam initially was. And as I alluded to before, they believe that there are two messiahs. There's Messiah, son of Joseph, who is Satan, and then there is Messiah, son of David, who is their king, who will rule from Zion, from Jerusalem, rule the entire world, which will be depopulated of the other side. And they believe that that new king is like Adam, in that he will populate the world with these 600,000 immortal androgynous souls generated from his seed and his skin cells converted into egg cells. And we see this pattern repeating, this idea that Adam fell and was expelled from the garden, which is essentially the destruction of the garden because of evil. It had to be cleansed and regenerated. That resulted in a period that led to Noah, when the earth, the new garden, became poisoned again with so much evil that it had to be destroyed and cleansed. Noah replanted the knowledge of the tree of good and evil, which had originally been planted by Samael, the devil, in the Garden of Eden. He replanted it as a grapevine. He grew a vineyard. He got drunk on the intoxicating blood of chaos. His son raped and castrated him. And evil was reintroduced into the new garden of the world after it had been cleansed. Evil in this cosmic cycle gets worse and worse. So they believe that the earth has to be completely destroyed again, as it was in the flood, and then it has to be repopulated by a single man, and that single man will be their Messiah, son of David, uh, who will be their king and create these 600,000 immortal androgynes. And as insane as it is, and as insane as it sounds, they have created all the technology to do this. And they view that as proof that the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil has now ripened, and provided them with the technology to undo the curses that were placed on Adam when Adam consumed the unripe fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. He was separated into male and female. Female was cursed with menstruation and the pains of childbirth, and human beings could only procreate through that process of marriage and raising children, and they were cursed to die. They were cursed to produce their food in the fields as opposed to the Garden of Eden, where their sustenance was supplied to them by nature in that golden age. And now they perceive that they will create artificial intelligent robots that will generate all of their food, do all of their gardening, do all of their labor, and they will enter this new Garden of Eden, the Garden of Eden of Olam Haba, the world to come, which is the title of my book, and that it will be free of the other side, and they will consume the ripe fruit of the knowledge of tree and good of good and evil. Jesus will return in his kosher form. They call him the kosher pig. The word pig, chazar, is related to the word chazir for return. So Jesus will return in his kosher form and slaughter all of the Christians. He will return as the Antichrist, who will destroy the world as the world was destroyed in the flood, as Adam was expelled from the garden. And then he will create this new world on the backs of the destruction of the Christians and others.
Yeah, so you can kind of see the agendas that are happening right now with the gender confusion, the whole trying to get the kids all confused about their genders, having them chop off their bits, and they don't need us procreating the way we were before anymore. So that this is kind of, and it's part of the depopulation as well. If we can get us all confused and get us chopping off our bits, and we're just not going to make us have any children, and it's just everything that's going on right now. It's part of this whole thing, and you can really see it. Like,
yes, and they had documents which stated exactly that if you wanted to promote depopulation, one of the things that should be done is that androgyny and homosexuality should be promoted in society. And they're doing it to school children in the schools, and they are also doing it chemically and through genetically modified organisms that we consume as our food. They are attacking us from many angles. They're increasing the amount of radiation that we're exposed to, carcinogens, things which damage our gametes and make us sterile in numerous ways. So it is both, but they are also experimenting on people as guinea pigs on how to generate these 600,000 immortal androgynes.
Oh, I bet they have. They've been doing cloning and all this stuff for quite a while now. So I can only imagine the technology that they really have that they haven't told us about.
Yeah,
because
I
we know
think
they're
they're
making.
there. I think the biggest obstacle now is to wipe us out and to.
Right.
I think they do want to destroy the living environment of the earth and then create a new set of organisms. Isaiah talked about the sheep lying down with the wolves and the lions, etc. I think they have a vision of creating a new forms of life because they want to demonstrate that they are gods, that they can utilize this ripened knowledge of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They can kill off the gods by simply disbelieving in them. They are antinomians. They believe that all of what the Torah was about has been fulfilled and done with. They can get rid of Yahweh. They can even get rid of Shekinah, their precious Queen of Heaven. They will get rid of Samael and Lilith, and they will be the gods. And they will have that first intellect which supersedes what the gods had done. You can hear them brazenly describe the idea that they have surpassed the gods, because the gods could only create intelligence in organic matter, but they are creating intelligence in different sets of minerals. And they are even more like Satan by creating souls from this mineral world, and that these souls have not descended from the Holy One, but from the intellect of these new gods.
So when you say the gods, you're talking about the gods. Now, is that the Anunnaki? Is that what we're talking about here? Those, the ones who created us in the first place?
It's related to the Sumerian, Babylonian, and Mesopotamian myths, which were the Anunnaki. I think it's more through the filter of the Egyptians and the Greeks. The Canaanites also had that Semitic set of gods. The Canaanites had the god El and Asherah, who were the parent gods, who then had 70 children. Those 70 children then become the princes of the 70 nations that they believe the other side has. So that's all a part of it. The Bible describes man being created in the image of the gods. The word Elohim is used. It's only later in Exodus that the name Yahweh, the tetragrammaton Yod-He Vav-He, appears. So those are the gods that they are talking about. The Greeks had the idea that there was what was called the Holy One, and that's another term that appears in the Torah. And this Holy One is absolute divine goodness, perfection, and that perfection manifests itself in the unity. Because if it were to separate, then that which was separate from it would be different and therefore could not be perfect. So the one had to maintain its integrity in unity, and instead emanated what Plato called the demiurge, the craftsman, to build the world. So the craftsman was emanated out of the one. The one maintained its unity, its integrity. But since the craftsman was distant from that one, its creation was imperfect. And that demiurge then emanated the world soul. And the world soul was the female aspect of the demiurge. And she contained all of the souls of human beings, plants, and animals. And the demiurge created the lesser gods, who become the angels and demons. In Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, they simply call them angels and demons because they don't want to admit that they are not monotheists. They are instead polytheists who have a pantheon of gods. And so we start to develop a hierarchy. At the top of the pyramid, there is one, and it's one being that emanates the demiurge and the world soul. So in the divine realm, we now have a trinity of three. The one has divided into male aspect of the demiurge and the female aspect of the world soul. The demiurge is the creator God, who is called Yahweh in the Old Testament. And the world soul becomes Asherah. In the Canaanite system, it's El, the male aspect, Asherah, the female aspect. That gets changed in the Old Testament to Yahweh, the male aspect. And in Kabbalah, Shekhinah, the female aspect, she's called the Queen of Heaven, and Asherah in the Old Testament. And then beneath those, we have the angels and demons on what is called the great chain of being. Beneath that are human beings. And then beneath human beings are animals, then plants, then minerals, then pure chaos. And Satan exists in pure chaos. Satan is ultimately distant from the Holy One. Satan is the great divider. Chaos is infinitely divided. God is eternal and pure goodness and pure intellect. Satan is pure chaos, infinitely divided, and each particulate of that infinitely divided substratum is completely ephemeral and changes in every instant. So they are complete opposites. Human beings are caught in the middle of that scheme. They have the divine spark from above, which was emanated as a soul of light, but they also have the bodies made of material. So they are caught, their spark is caught in this prison of the body. And the Kabbalists assert that being in this state provides human beings with free will. And they can choose to release their spark so that it can return to that holy unity and engage in what's called an ecstatic reunion with the one, the unio mystica. And then they lose their ego. It's called the death of the ego. People who take ayahuasca say that they experience this, and they become part of that one, but they are lost as being distinct from the one. That's called the right-hand path, is to ascend back up the Sephirotic tree to the Holy One, to become ultimately righteous, to become a prophet, a tzaddik, and to view the map of creation and join with God. The other path that can be taken is to descend down the Kalipatic tree, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, to meet with Satan in chaos, to become infinitely divided from God, and then to become your own God and the master of chaos, so that you can impose your will on chaos to generate through your knowledge, through your wisdom, and through your technology, whatever world it is you want to create. And Lucifer was the angel who wanted to create his own kingdom, as the demiurge had. And in the mythology of the Gnostics, the demiurge screwed up the world because it was separated from the one. It wasn't aware of that divine realm. It didn't have the logos. Instead, it was a child, a son of Barbello, who messed up creation, created this evil world of material, and that therefore the only path to follow is to gain the gnosis of Jesus and ascend back up to the gods. In Kabbalah, though, it's very different. They view the god of light, of daylight, the god Ra in the Egyptian system, as being the enemy. And they worship instead Seth Typhon, the god of darkness and chaos. And when the Kabbalists talk about light, they are not talking about daylight and sunshine and golden light. They are talking about the energetic light of that infinitely subdivided energetic chaos, of the supreme power of Satan, which existed before the daylight. Primordial chaos was the first to enter into being when the monad, separated into its two aspects and emanated them. So they want chaos to win this cosmic struggle. And they talk about shining darkness, which is the silver light of moonlight. It is the light of the night luminaries that they want to win this cosmic struggle. And they want to destroy the sun god Ra. And that's what the whole story of the 10 plagues is about. It was about creating the darkness in which they could see, but in which the other side could not see, because the other side are the children of the sun, and they are the children of the moon, of the god Seth Typhon. So they ultimately want the god of darkness and chaos to triumph, and they believe that that's what will happen at the end of this 6,000-year cycle.
Yeah, well, if you read the Bible, the beginning of it, it says, in the beginning there was darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. It just verifies what you just said there.
And just as in the beginning, man was androgynous and immortal, they want to return to that state. And just as in the beginning there was primordial chaos, they want to return to that state, but they want to return to it as gods, like the devil, who are separated from the Holy One, infinitely separated, and therefore can utilize their will without having to obey the laws and the order of the Holy One. Instead, it will be them who are the gods, who are able to mold chaos, because the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil has become ripe and kosher for them to consume. Because Jesus, the kosher pig, has returned to them. Jesus has this, they believe that there are multiple layers of soul, and Jesus has the highest soul, Yechida, which is the soul of Tohu Vavohu, chaos and formlessness, and Hoshech, darkness. And they want to inherit that soul and become that soul. And Messiah, son of Joseph, bears that soul, which is why he has to die to redeem Messiah, son of David. And then that soul of chaos will then enter into the vessel of the body of Messiah, son of David. And then they will become gods themselves, who are masters of chaos.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of good information here. I hope that people are kind of getting this. It sounds like in the chat that they are, and I hope that people are on the replay are also getting this, and seeing how important this is. And, going back to depopulation, I think they're finding that it's taking too long in the measures that they've been doing here. It's taking too long to kill us off. And I know Klaus Schwab has said that, what happened here 3 years ago is going to seem like a minor disturbance compared to the cyber attack that's coming. And I think that's probably the quickest way to get rid of us. Honestly, it's just to turn off all the power, because let's face it, if we don't have any power here, we're doomed. Nobody's going to be able to survive here. And so
And
I'm thinking
famine
that's
and disease will also be
yeah.
ways that they can wipe us out. And if that doesn't
Well,
work,
that's
they have nuclear weapons.
right. So now I know there's debate on whether or not we have them or not, but if, from what I've seen, that might be another psyop as well. There's so many psyops going around in the truth community,
Well, we have
we're
to be
all just
wary of that because the
yeah.
communists, including Oppenheimer, wanted
Mhm.
to discourage the West from developing thermonuclear weapons. He was notorious and fought against a man named Louis Strauss, um, to keep the US from building thermonuclear weapons, which had been developed by Edvard Teller. During the Manhattan Project, Edvard Teller had proposed designs. The atomic bombs that were dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima were pure fission weapons. And Teller came up with the brilliant idea of utilizing fission to generate the then infinitely more powerful fusion of hydrogen bombs by surrounding it with certain isotopes of hydrogen. And then Oppenheimer opposed that. He strongly opposed it after the war. His wife and family were communists, and he opposed it because he wanted the Soviets to develop thermonuclear weapons while the West remained behind. He did want to develop the atomic bomb so that he could wipe out the Nazis. But when that was no longer an issue, he ensured that Klaus Fuchs and the Rosenbergs and all the others, dozens of them, gave all of our nuclear secrets and gave Teller's plans for hydrogen bombs, thermonuclear weapons to the Soviets. And then Oppenheimer stood in the way. And then another thing that they pushed was the flat earthers were actually trying to get rid of our space technology and discourage the development of space technology. So we have two communist forces working against the West to turn us against our own governments so that we do not pursue our nuclear arsenal and our nuclear deterrence, and that we believe that the earth is flat and that nuclear weapons don't exist. Well, concurrently, the communist nations of Russia, Red China, and North Korea developed their thermonuclear weapons, developed their hypersonic missile delivery systems, and ultimately will develop satellite platforms from which to launch thermonuclear weapons on us, and have built the largest, most powerful thermonuclear weapons on Earth. And they're also developing, have been for decades and decades, developing Cobalt 60 weapons to magnify the deadly effects and radiation from thermonuclear weapons. They are developing EMP, electromagnetic pulse weapons, to take out our electrical
That's more
grid, et
likely, I
cetera, et cetera. So I think
think.
we have to be very wary of that psyop that's being run on us to make us think that nuclear weapons aren't real and that the earth is flat. What they're really trying to do is destroy our space program and turn people against our government, promoting our nuclear arsenals and developing our nuclear deterrence.
Yeah, well, like to me, using nukes is just, they're gonna not just take us out, but you're gonna take everything else out. It's gonna be a long, long, long time before anybody can come and use the land afterwards. It would make more sense to me just doing an EMP or something like that. Give us 2 years, and most of humanity will be gone, and you can just come in, and all the resources and everything else is still intact. It makes more sense to me. But
Yes, and also doing it with famine and disease. It will be cleaner for
yeah,
them
well, you lump that in at
and
the
leave
same time.
everything standing.
Yeah. So this is where the whole climate change things are coming in, where we're going to have, droughts, and we're going to have floods, and all of that's happening all over the globe. I do believe it's going to increase here, and they've been grooming us for this, about the whole climate change and things, are so that we're kind of normalizing it, and yet
Yes,
it's
they have
them
been
doing it.
conditioning us
Yeah,
for that
yeah, it's them
for
doing it.
thousands of years, actually, in all
Yeah.
of what they call their prophecies, which are actually their plans. They have been saying exactly that, that
So they're
the
saying this is
earth,
coming,
the
and then they go
sun,
and do it. Yeah.
yes, and it is, the alchemists understood it in exactly those terms, that the sun generates heat, which is drying and is a ball of fire, and fire, the element of fire, creates heat and dryness. And they anticipated that the sun would do this to the earth. So it is not coincidental that they are artificially generating conditions in the atmosphere which promote those kinds of effects, in my opinion.
Yeah, they've had weather modification technology for quite a while. I mean, there
Absolutely.
was that. I don't know if it was back in the 60s or 50s, or whatever it was. This guy was talking all about it and how they're gonna, and of course, these things can be used for good, of course, where, if there is drought, you can go and produce some more rain and whatnot. But that's not why they're using it, though. They're using it against us, of course. That's gonna then take away our crops. We're already short, I believe. There's been already some things happening that's cutting out our supply, the grain supply. I heard India is no longer exporting rice, because they're hoarding it now. They're realizing, every country's realizing, oh shit, we're going to be short here, so we're not exporting anymore. And once China pulls out, that's it. We're doomed over here. I mean, we've exported everything over there.
We
And
were even exporting our pork and other meat products to China at a time when there was a shortage in America. So our leadership is absolutely against us.
yeah, well, they are against us. Yes, I know. And they're bringing in all these migrants, busloads after busload after busload. And that's going to obviously, you're going to have to share that much more now with your resources,
And
y- you know.
battle-age men is the
And that's
predominant
another thing I've
demographic.
noticed too. They're all battle-aged men. Yeah, yeah, I know. I know over here, I live in Canada, west coast of Canada, and I know on the island here, we have hundreds and hundreds of Chinese military been training here for years. So it's not a matter of them coming over here. They're already here. They're already
And
here. They're
they
already
are
training here
setting
in our
up
backyard for years. Yeah.
in Alaska, they are setting it up so that the indigenous people can lease their land to Russians and Chinese and create a
Mm.
beachhead in Alaska from which to take over the state. And they're making it more and more difficult for normal American citizens to gain access to that land and to maintain their rights to property and their equal rights with the indigenous peoples. And it's called decolonization, and it's really a plan to hand over everything to the communists, to destroy the
Yeah.
sovereignty of the United States.
Yeah. And just to clarify a little bit too, like communism, all the religions, pretty much everything that we got going on was started by the certain group of people way back in the day that we were. So I don't think
Thank you
people
so much
realize
for
that.
pointing that out. I call communism and Marxism the fourth Abrahamic faith.
Yes.
And they all produce, if you examine them carefully, they all produce the same end result. And each group in those four Abrahamic faiths plays the exact role that was originally scripted in the Torah. And it's all
Yeah.
completely self-destructive for everyone except for that one group. Everyone else destroys their traditions, destroys their religions, destroys their culture. Marxism completely evaporates all of the traditions, culture, economic structure, and gods of every people that it infects.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I don't know if you've listened to Roseanne, but I have been listening to her lately, and it's kind of refreshing because A, she's funny, and B, she's actually talking about this. and she is actually a Jew herself. And so that's, and she's saying, yeah, and she's apologizing. I apologize to all your, what do they call us again? Gentiles. Apologize to all the Gentiles. This has been this has been a conspiracy against you for all these time. And, she's apologizing on behalf of her, ethnic group that she comes from, and very aware of it. And her mission here is to spread this knowledge around, that these are the people who are behind all of this, and it's not the common people. So there's nothing against regular, Jewish people. They're all nice and all. I'm sure I know lots of them, but so that's not it. It's the agenda from a long time ago, like 6,000 years ago, whatever, that's being played out. And, you can see it, the whole breakdown of the families, the whole gender confusion thing. I mean, if here in Canada, it's just outrageously how quick this is happening. Trudeau, of course, is all for it. He's the first in line on the gay parades, and now his wife left him too, by the way. So that tells you something right there, right? He's done his time. She done her time, because he's almost done his reign now. So she doesn't have to be there anymore. But anyways,
That
mandatory in our
family has
school.
been like that for generations too.
Yeah, right. It's mandatory in the schools now that you're not allowed to identify as male or female. So if you're putting your children in school, be aware of this. They're no longer going to be he or she. It's going to be, I don't know what age they're allowed to decide what they are, but they're going to try to convince all of our children to be something else than what you're born with, and essentially destroy them. It's just
Absolutely.
I
It's
can't
complete
believe it.
destruction of humanity.
Yeah, I
And
can't
as you
believe what's
say, it's
going on.
happening so rapidly and
It
snowballing.
is. Canada is front in line on this. Like Trudeau is just like the front and center of the whole economic forum. He's groomed there and all this. It's just, I just can't believe it. I
That's the
can't
most
believe it.
troubling aspect of it for me, is that they're utilizing the power of the state to impose this religious agenda and fulfill this religious plan on the masses of people. And that makes it very difficult to resist it. And they also have complete control over public communications, both through social media, mass
Yes.
media, and the largely controlled alternative media. So
Yeah. Well,
we
the
have
other thing he
really got
did
to
too,
work overtime to stop this, or we're doomed.
we really do. Like, this is what I've been saying, people. So going back to Canada again now, another thing that he's done, no longer any news, any mainstream, any news is allowed on social media. No news. So whatever's happening in the world, you're no longer going to see it on Facebook. You'll have to go looking for it, or we're just not going to be aware of what's going on anywhere, because we're not allowed to have any of it, because he doesn't want us starting to put the pieces together, right? Like we are right now.
It's
And so this is
absolute
another thing
tyranny.
they've
It's
done.
complete destruction of fundamental human rights.
Yeah, I
They are
know.
dehumanizing us in every way, and we're doing nothing to resist it.
Yeah,
And we
I know.
have to, or they're going to kill us off.
Yeah, I know. This is
And
life and
there
death.
is not much time left.
No, I know. This is going fast, a lot faster than I would have imagined. I only woke up by a decade ago, whatever it was. Yeah, about a decade ago.
Well,
And
Lenin was talking about the idea that technology would evolve so quickly that a year would seem like the changes that had occurred in the previous
yeah,
1,000 years. And
it
now,
has. Yeah,
absolutely, they knew it, they planned it, and they've exploited it. And it's going to get worse, because they now have artificial intelligence, which can analyze data so quickly, and so much data, that they can anticipate how to manipulate every single person, and exactly to what cues to give people to make them foolishly believe that they are independently arriving at conclusions, which instead they are being led to arrive at, so that they will then not feel that they're being oppressed. They will instead think that they have come to these conclusions on their own, when they have instead been completely manipulated and led through programs which profile them, which collect databases and know exactly how people will respond to certain cues. And they'll feed people these cues, and they'll control us all completely, and we'll have no say in anything.
I know. So I'm trying to go backwards now from technology. I want to get rid of my cell phone. I'm thinking of going back to a flip phone, and get rid of all my credit cards, and just go back to cash. and do cash for everything so that they can't track you. They don't know what you're spending it on. There's no more of this, trying to figure out what I'm doing or thinking, or, let's go back to the way it was, like that's kind of where I'm at now.
I
But
think there ought to be a core of people who do that, but I don't think we can become technophobic, because then they will gain such an advantage over us. It will be like people attacking the Roman army with tanks, nuclear weapons, and machine guns. And the Chinese are certainly not technophobic, nor are the Russians or North Koreans. So we need to have both. We need a balance. And we need a certain set of our children who are producing the highest technology in the world. We need to get rid of all the espionage from the Chinese and from even from Europeans who are ripping us off on technology. And we need to do both. And we need to preserve what it is to be a human being, to be an artisan, to work with your hands, to make food yourself, to fix things in your house on your own. But we also need a set of people in our society who produce the very highest technology so that we can defend ourselves from our enemies. And we need to prevent the development of those technologies from falling into the hands of our enemies. And the American government has just kept the door open and the window open and allowed the Chinese to just steal everything that the tax dollar is used to produce and set us up to use those as weapons with which to kill off the American public. And nobody's held accountable for any of it. Not a single person's been held accountable for any of it.
Yeah, and I know TikTok is Chinese, okay? And that's exactly why they made the TikTok, is to spy on people, and as one of the reasons why I'm not on TikTok.
And to poison the mind of kids, and to destroy the human psychology of our children and turn them into zombies. And it's very effective. And again, they can gather all this data and collate it and see what the effects are and experiment so quickly. I mean, in milliseconds, they can analyze tremendous amounts of data that they've gathered. And the human being is so vulnerable to this. They're going to increasingly gain an advantage over all of us. And they're putting this into the banking system with social credit so that they can isolate us and punish us and make us pariahs and make it so that we can't survive. We need laws in place to protect us from this. And we need a government that's looking out for our best interests instead of the opposite of a government which is working for our enemies to annihilate us. And we're failing. We're failing as a people. America has 380 million people, and not a single one of us is running in a serious way to oppose this. So the biggest fault is our own, and we cannot fail because our children will be destroyed if we don't succeed right now, this presidential election, and in all of the elections, in getting people into office who will oppose this agenda. We're doomed.
Yes. So speaking of that, two candidates for sure not to vote for will be Trump. He's bought and paid for by the Jews, okay? 2 bankruptcies that he got bailed out of, plus his daughter, converted. Like, he's so tight with the Jews, okay? Same with the Kennedy, tight with the Jews. So these two for sure, do not vote for these two. Now, I don't know who's the best candidate. There is this Dr. Shiva, seems okay, but I don't know everything about him. What do you think? You're living down there. Who are you going to vote for?
Dr. Shiva, he used to be in a relationship with Fran Drescher, the Jewish actress. So that's something to keep in mind. He curses like a sailor, but I don't know. Is he actually an eligible candidate? Because I thought you had to be born in the United States to be an eligible candidate. He says a lot of good things, and we can't dismiss people who are actually gaining traction and doing something, but we can't throw our energy in an energy sink that can't go anywhere. So let's use Dr. Shiva as a model to get somebody else with more money and a more consistent past and background that can actually have a viable chance of winning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the
And
problem
let
is
him
that.
speak and give him a platform and let him
Mhm,
point out the fact that Robert Kennedy Jr. and Donald Trump are both Zionists,
mhm,
Chabadniks, who are heavily in bed. And speaking of that Messiah, son of David, the Chabadniks had the Messiah, son of David in Rebbe Menachem Mendel Schneerson. And Kennedy visited his grave to obtain his blessing. And anybody who knows about Kabbalah knows that that means that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is being posed as the Messiah, son of Joseph, who is
mhm.
Satan incarnate, who is the Antichrist, who's going to set us up to be destroyed by the communists and the Zionists. So it is a very serious matter. We have to take this seriously. And there is
Yes.
no one viable in opposition to Kennedy and Trump. So far, there's no one. And I don't mean to dump on Shiva. Let's get him out there. Let's get his voice going, and let's hope
Mhm,
he inspires someone who's even more viable to run
mhm.
and speak on these issues and to win. Someone like a Ross Perot who can actually get to that point and then, unlike Ross Perot, not back out.
Yes. So what do you suggest? Like, what should we do? Like,
We have to not fall into traps. I think believing that the earth is flat, that ETs are real, that nuclear weapons aren't, are the kind of traps that I try to warn people about. I think Christianity is a trap. I think it's insane to welcome the idea that the world be destroyed. We should instead demand that the government not interfere with human genders. We got to watch out for the government feeding us poisons and creating
mhm,
a noxious poison environment. We have to work towards peace, and we have to organize politically. I think one of the reasons that no one is running for office is because there's no base, there's no organized base. The reason that Kennedy was suddenly propelled into the limelight was because they have this complete alternative media, which are gatekeepers, which exclude anyone with a reasonable voice telling the truth about what's going on, and promote all of these charlatans and give them a platform. So you and I and others have to start building a network where if someone declares that they're going to run, they're going to have a base and they're going to get supported financially and they're going to have a means of reaching people. And if this alternative media and mainstream media conspire to exclude them, they will have a means of exposing that and waking people up. And I've been trying for decades to get some of the big influencers in alt media to set up an organization where if someone were to announce, they could reach 1 million people in a day, and
mhm.
not a single one of them would sign up for it. They were all opposed to it. They are all defeatists who said there's no hope. But then when somebody like Kennedy comes along or someone like Trump, they say, oh, the political process is the way to get rid of the deep state. So we have to be smarter and we have to work harder, and people have to start kicking in funding, and we need to build up networks so that if we can find a candidate, a viable candidate, we can afford them with a platform where they can reach a substantial amount of people and they can demonstrate that they're being excluded from the public debate, so that the public themselves try to seek them out and demand that their voice be given a platform. And we need to start calling out the big voices in the alt media for being gatekeepers. And we need to, I think that would be a good way of introducing someone, is to get to offer up first the idea that there is a platform and there will be funding if someone viable opens up to run. So if we could get the Joe Rogans to say that if someone who stands in opposition to all of this, who is not part of the team like Kennedy and Trump, comes forward, we will give them a platform. And that, I think, will inspire the courage and the will of someone viable to step up, to put their neck on the chopping block and try to save humanity from this doomsday end times cult that wants to kill us off.
Yeah. So I've started a new channel. We're actually going live on that channel right now, so I don't know if anybody's there or not. I'll go and check that out later. But for those of you who are interested in this and want to know more about it, want to discuss more about it, subscribe to my new non-religious truth channel, because that's where I'm going to be going live with this kind of material later, okay? Because this stuff, I don't want to compromise this channel. It's kind of, it started out as like tarot readings and whatever. So, you know, I don't want to confuse the audience either. So, yeah, subscribe to that so that we can feel more freely and be able to talk about these things that we talked about here today. Now, have you thought about running for president?
Um, I'm already wearing too many hats, and I
Okay,
don't have the kind of personality that would be successful at that. I think my
right.
role would be better served coming up with a platform, speech writing, and creating ideas on how to get this successful. What we need is someone charismatic, hopefully, someone with some name recognition, and someone who can persuade people on an emotional level, which is not my forte. I'm more intellectual, historically oriented, and I'm too didactic and pedantic, and I digress in my thoughts frequently, so I'm not the man. But I do have a strong knowledge of what it is that can save us from these people. I know what these people's plans are, and I know how to get in the way of those plans. So if someone wants to run who would be viable, I could certainly help out in that way
Yeah, yeah, I
and would
highly
devote my
recommend that you
life to
guys
it
get the book.
strongly.
Yeah, get this book. It's going to explain everything. Now, like you said, you know, a lot of this stuff here is it's all biblical interpretations and decoding. So for some people, they just don't have the patience to read that kind of stuff, you know, they just can't get through it. However, you do have a lot of videos on your YouTube channel that it might be a little bit easier to kind of digest it, you know, but it is the kind of material that most people just can't, it's not entertaining enough for them, you know. So,
And also,
which
it
is too
was
bad.
written in code. The
Yeah.
Torah is the written Torah that Christians are familiar with, was written in a code to conceal what the true meaning is. And they have something called the oral Torah, which comes out in the Talmud and the Kabbalah, and that decodes it. But then they also put that into code words and mystical meanings that have to be decoded and interpreted. So there are multiple layers of concealment that you have to break through. So it is a process, and it's a long process of learning how to decode what it is. The important thing is to understand that their ultimate aims are our destruction, that they believe that we exist in a different universe from them, and that their world can only be perfected on the back of eliminating us.
Yeah, so even this is why Jesus was talking in parables too, by the way, so that you know
Mhm.
only those in the inner circle would know what he was talking about. The rest of us, you know, we're just, you know, obviously we just have no clue of what. So, you know, I'm really grateful that you've, you know, that you're doing this work, and it's too bad that I didn't discover you earlier, I guess. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you know, there's so much censorship and yes, I'm sure your stuff just been buried and we just didn't see it. I didn't see it until you were on Writer's Channel. So,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
they've completely blacklisted me from the alt media for decades. The mainstream
uh,
media won't touch it, even though
yeah.
they can see that when people have me on their channels, those interviews are their highest ranked shows, sometimes
Mhm,
exponentially. But they're even getting better at shadow banning wherever I speak. They have a
mhm,
whole crew of trolls and liars who
mhm,
write to interviewers and hosts and big influencers and threaten them, tell them to not have me on, tell them that all their funding will be cut off if they have me
mhm,
on. And
mhm,
I hope that this indicates to people that I do have some of the answers, and I'm the only one who has those answers and understands some of these most esoteric things, which is all the more reason that people should be having me on and interviewing me. And these
mhm.
people should realize that we are really in existential danger. They are going to kill us. They are going to harm your children. They're going to take away all that wealth that they have helped you to accumulate. So you are not saving yourself by keeping a lid on this. You are instead ensuring your own personal demise, and certainly the destruction of your progeny, if not in the immediate generation of your children, then certainly in your grandchildren, and there probably won't be great grandchildren, unfortunately. But I don't want to be pessimistic. This is our opportunity. We have within our genetic code the will to survive. We have within ourselves our love for one another, our general love for humanity, certainly our love for our children, our need to protect and preserve our children so that they too can have children and to keep the human race going. So dig into your soul, into your humanity, and start to defend yourself. Start to take on a spirit that humanity has enabled us to survive for hundreds of thousands of years under extremely harsh conditions where things seemed hopeless. If you watch the animal kingdom, if you watch animals when they're wounded, when they're hurt, that's when they fight the hardest, and they very often escape and survive. Predators fail most times. And these predators who are preying on the human race will fail if the human race tries to defend itself and survive.
Yeah, well, I don't claim to know all the answers here, but I'm definitely on Team Humanity. And whatever it is that I can do, let me know. You say you want to get organized. Let me know. I'm on board. Team Humanity. We got to do it. Otherwise, yeah, we're going to be a goner, people. And it's not to put a little damper on your day or anything, but it is what it is, and we need to do something about it. And just being aware of it is, I guess, the first step. And make sure that you go into the description of the video here and subscribe to Christopher's channel. It is there. I can give it to you here too, into the chat here. I'll give you the YouTube and subscribe, okay? And watch all his videos. That's the thing. You're going to get more. This was just a little taste. Obviously, we can't cover too much in this time frame, but he's got tons and tons of videos. You guys go and binge watch, and then most importantly, share them out, okay, with all your friends and family. Let them know. This is his website. I'll put that in there too, where you can go and buy his books and whatever else that you got going on in there. Just put it quickly in here. And I see you got a Twitter too, which is now called X. That's an interesting, I saw somebody did a video on that about Elon. And there's a lot more to that dude than we realize. And this X thing, that was planned ahead. Definitely. So.
Oh yeah, Elon's from South Africa, and he's from that group, and he has been pushing the BRICS agenda, which is very much anti-Western and very strongly communistic. South Africa is a strongly Marxist nation, and they are openly calling for the extermination of the Boers and the whites of South Africa.
Right. Now that's been going on.
Now Musk called that out. I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, that's the thing. They'll give you a little bit of truth here and there, right? But not the whole thing, obviously, and just enough so that you'll think that, oh, maybe he's a good guy. Or it's kind of like Trump, you weren't quite sure about him for a bit there, but we sure do now, so yeah. Oh, what's Mary got a question here? Yeah, does anybody have any questions for Christopher? Put him in there now. Do you really think that
our vote can actually count if we have genuine candidates? And even when it's a choice of the lesser of two evils, it can count in significant ways. But what counts the most is getting rid of these two political parties that are giving us these horrendous candidates election after election. I mean, my goodness, how can we be in a situation where it's Biden versus Trump if the political parties were genuine and were trying to look out for their own best interests and the interests of their constituents? They are obviously not. They're looking to destroy America. It is the political parties that produce Biden and Trump. So we need to, we could eventually ban the political parties, but we need independent candidates. The third parties tend to be run out of Russia and tend to be run out of Israel. So I think the way to go is independence and eventually work toward banning the political parties. It is horrendous, the candidates that are being put forward for major office in the United States of America. It's a national embarrassment, and it is ruining the country on every level.
Yeah, well, that's not on purpose too. I mean, I don't think
Oh, absolutely. And the
Biden's going to
political
be around
parties are
for the next
the
one.
means for accomplishing that.
Yeah, it is embarrassment. It's in your face though, right? You know, putting some
Oh,
old senior
absolutely.
citizen in there. I mean, it's a disgrace. I mean, the whole thing is just a laughing stock.
But it's also it's a failure of us as a people to not do
Yeah,
anything about it.
I know. I know we're so used to just, obeying, and doing what we're told and just be a good little girl and boy, or, well, sorry, we're not allowed to say that anymore. A good little citizen, I guess. And,
Again, what they're doing is they're collating data on how human behavior happens. They can analyze where if they put out a psychopath as an influencer, and then they get his stuff reposted by everybody all over YouTube and Bitchute, etc. They can control and manipulate public opinion. And then when anybody speaks out in opposition to it, they get attacked, roundly attacked. And human beings behave in a mob psychology and a herd mentality to undermine any genuine efforts. So we have to be even smarter than they are and come up with ways of getting around that. And we have to do it very quickly.
Yes. Milky's got a question here. Do you think we're battling against one of those gods that is still on Earth, controlling things behind the scenes?
We are battling against people who are indoctrinated into what those gods represent. And in that sense, yes, but not in a metaphysical sense, I don't believe.
Okay. Yeah, I guess gods, you're going all the way back to Anunnaki, I guess, eh? Kind of thing.
It's not so much the Anunnaki as it is Tiamat and Apshu. It's this battle between the salt water and the fresh water, between the forces of goodness and evil, darkness and chaos versus order and light is the fundamental tenet behind all of it. That there is this eternal struggle between opposites that takes the form of male and female, good and evil, light and darkness, order and chaos, material and spiritual is the way
Yeah,
that they perceive it.
I know a lot of people are probably saying that, oh, well, I don't believe in all the old mythology and all of this, history or whatever, which is, it doesn't matter what you believe. The fact is that they believe in it and they have set the agenda and it's in full gear and we're right at the end. So the Christians are right in that sense that, yeah, we are in the end times for sure. It's just that they think
But
that
it's
they're
by
getting saved.
design and
They're
it's
not.
artificial. It's not being forced on us by benevolent gods who have this as their plan. It is instead malevolent, misanthropic human beings. And this battle of these two opposites, this dualistic approach to the world, they believe is integral in humanity, and they separate themselves into two distinct forces. They view themselves as the tzaddikim, the righteous ones, and they view the rest of us as the rishoyim, the wicked ones. And because they have dehumanized us and made an enemy of us in this way, they propose the only resolution is to exterminate us. And that is their mindset. We have to face up to that, that we have the most powerful people in the world who view it as their mission on the earth to get rid of us. And we have to defend ourselves from that.
Yeah, I wanted to actually, before we close up here, I saw a video you had yesterday about the black cube. which is very interesting because I actually did a video, I think last year, a while back, about the connection of black rock, the black cube, and Antarctica. Like it might be a connection there. Could there be this cube thing in Antarctica? Is that why we're not allowed to be there? I don't know, but this cube thing is that's one of those things that has kind of been intriguing me as of late. Yeah.
I think the origin and the most esoteric and deep meaning of the black cube is in the Holy of Holies of the Temple of Solomon.
Mm-hmm.
This God of Israel, Seth Typhon, appeared in the Holy of Holies, which, according to the description in Second Chronicles, is a perfect cube, which is veiled in darkness. And the God Yahweh appeared in that Holy of Holies in a black cloud and stated that he is a God of darkness and lives in darkness. So that is the origin of the black cube. It is the Holy of Holies in the temple. It is the form of a cube, and it is their god, Seth Typhon. And I have I'm working on the third volume of my series, Satanic Secrets of Jesus Christ. And I have in there all of the depictions of Seth Typhon as being the black pig of the moon. The moon was thought by the Egyptians to be one of Horus's two eyes. One of his eyes was the sun, the other eye was the moon. Horus and Seth were homosexual. They battled one another. They had sex with one another. And in one of their battles, Seth scrunches out the moon from Horus's eye. And Horus sees Seth as the black pig. And you see the black pig appearing in Pink Floyd iconology. And that black pig is that black cube that's in the sky that represents Seth Typhon, the god of chaos and darkness, who
Right. Yeah, you guys.
resides in the Holy of Holies, which is a black
Yeah, you
cube.
guys need to go and watch his videos because he's got a whole video about who God is, and that you connecting a Seth is God, was it?
Seth, originally the Egyptians worshiped the god Seth because he was the god of primordial chaos. He was the first god. He was the god of darkness, and he was the most powerful god. And then they abandoned the worship of Seth for the worship of Osiris and then Horus, who defeated Seth. Seth chopped up Osiris, and then Osiris was reconstituted. But because he had been resurrected and reconstituted, Osiris was made the god of the afterlife and the underworld. And Osiris and Isis's son Horus then became the god of daylight and the sun, god Ra, and Ra's replacement as the chief god of Egypt. And Seth Typhon got angry about that and wanted to be the chief god of Egypt. The Hyksos invaded Egypt from what is today Israel, and they reimposed the worship of Seth. And the Judeans who wrote the Torah and created the God of Israel adopted this God of the Hyksos and portrayed themselves as the descendants of the Hyksos, who had replaced the Egyptians and who had become the chosen people of the god Seth Typhon. Typhon is the Greek equivalent of the god Seth, and he has snakes for legs. Now, when the Greeks took over the temple of the Judeans in Jerusalem, they saw that this god Seth Typhon was being worshipped in the form of an ass. When you see Egyptian depictions of the god Seth, he has the head of an ass. And they were calling Seth the god Yao. Yahweh is correctly pronounced as the sound that a donkey, an ass, makes when it brays. And when they blow the shofar, it makes that same sound of Yao. And Yahweh was spelled in Greek, iota, alpha, omega, which pronounces yow, which is the sound that a donkey makes when it's braying. And the Egyptians and the Greeks said that this is, in fact, the God of Israel. Now, the Egyptians had numerous spells to fight this god, Seth. And one of the ways that they would fight it is to force the priests to eat the sacred animals of Seth. And one of those sacred animals of Seth is the pig. So when Antiochus IV Epiphanes took over the temple in Jerusalem, he forced the high priests to sacrifice pigs and eat pigs, even though the Israelites pretended that pigs are an unkosher evil animal. It's because they actually view them as the holy animal and they don't want to eat them. So as with almost everything about them, it's a complete deception and a lie. And what they do to the Egyptians is they sacrifice the holy animals of the Egyptians. The holiest animal of the Egyptians was the calf, the god Apis, and they consumed the golden calf. They burned up the gold that it was made out of and drank it down. So they are very wary of letting the other side know the God it is that they actually worship, because they know that the other side can then cast spells against them and utilize magic to defeat and destroy them. So they keep it very carefully hidden. But I have in my books decoded the fact that they view themselves as replacements of the Egyptians and that they worship what was originally Egypt's highest god, Seth Typhon. There's a question before me. May I answer it?
Yes, I know you just came out with a video about this, so you guys can always go. But yeah, if you want to answer it, go ahead.
Um, I'm not sure of what you're referring to when you say the black cube in space that circles the planet. But
They
the
just came
black
out with that,
cube,
yes, recently, right?
yes, but I'm not asserting that there's a black cube that circles the planet. But they are saying that there are UFOs who appear as black cubes, and
Yeah.
it correlates to the black cubes that they wear on their forehead and their wrist when they wrap those leather straps around them called tefillin. It
Mhm.
correlates to the Holy of Holies in the temple. It correlates to the Kaaba in Mecca, which is draped in a black veil and is shaped in a cuboid form. And what it represents is this God of Israel, Seth Typhon, in the form of the new moon, which is black. And it is made into a cube to represent the shape of what the Holy of Holies was originally in the temple. So, what they are worshiping is the union of heaven and earth, as above, so below. So they want the black cube, which is the throne of their God in heaven, to descend to the earth so that the earth is then elevated and they become one. The whole concept is that the earth is raised to heaven, but since they can't do that, they bring the heavens down to earth, and it is as above, so below.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of dots being connected here, and I highly recommend you guys go and binge watch his videos. He's going to answer a lot of your questions and kind of explain more. This is just,
It
it's been
helps to
2 hours.
see pictures of it. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah,
And in my
no,
videos, I have the pictures that will help you better understand.
yeah, exactly. You spent a lot of time putting these together. You got good quality videos there, and so yeah, definitely go and watch those. He's gonna, answer a lot of your questions, and share them out. Put them out
Thank you
there.
very much.
Hopefully, people will stumble upon them, and this knowledge will get out there, because we honestly don't have much time left here, and I do feel that urgency as well. And I'm kind of, that's why I started this new channel. I want to go full gear up there. I think we need to focus more on this stuff now than any of the other stuff that I've been focusing on. Honestly, that nothing else compares to this. This is life and death.
Oh,
Like, we can
absolutely.
worry
And
about
if
the
I
other
can
stuff later.
succinctly, it was a very good question. If I can succinctly answer it, the
Yeah.
black cube represents the God of Israel. It's very similar to a Christian with a cross.
That's why they're wearing this whole, the cube thing there. This is all about the cube there with the Jewish religion. I mean, it all, everything, guys, boils down to the Jewish religion. You know, whether you believe in it or not, they do. And they have, you know, the agenda has been going on for 6,000 years, and we're at the end now. So, you know, we can all see it now, but it's almost like it's almost too late. You know, it's kind of like the meteor that's coming towards us. What's right there now. It's almost like we should have shot that thing down like months ago. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where we're at. So it's almost a little overwhelming too, you know, and it's going to be for a
But
lot of
like with an
people.
alcoholic, if we get shocked, we can stop drinking, we can wake up, we can change our
That's
lives, and
true.
we can
It's
win
never
this
too late.
fight.
Yeah,
And we
I'm
have
going
to.
down fighting for sure. Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, I'm
Never
going
give
down
up.
fighting.
I've seen it so many times in the wild that animals that don't give up, the vast majority of times they survive all attacks against them. The animals that fight to the very end, fight their way out of the jaws of the predator,
Hmm.
survive.
Absolutely. Yes. So it's not too late. So you guys, yeah, get out there, binge watch, share, do all that stuff. And then I want to continue discussing this stuff over on my Truths channel. So if you haven't subscribed there, do that. Subscribe to Christopher here. And wow. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Christopher. Do you have any last things that you want to talk about before we shut her down?
I just want to thank you so very much. It's been a wonderful conversation. I'm so glad to have met you. Thank you for having that spirit of hope and for loving the human race so much that you view us as worth fighting for. Because there are so many propagandists out there who tell everybody to hate themselves and love the people that want to kill us and to give up hope, but to still vote for their choice candidates, et cetera, et cetera. And it's so
Mhm.
refreshing to speak to someone who actually wants to do something positive and sees that there are positive things that we can do and we have an obligation to do it. And we can win if we do it.
Yes, and thank you for coming on, and thank you for the work that you've been doing. Like I said, go and support him. He needs, you know, we all need support, guys, in order to get this stuff out there. So buying a book, subscribing, whatever it is that you can do, do it, because this is a matter of life and death. So yeah, thank you all for coming. I see Max Vision just showed up. I highly recommend to go back and rewatch this. It is a 2-hour thing, but you know, highly recommend to watch it. And most importantly, share it out, guys. Okay, don't keep this to yourself, because if you do, well, you know, it's going to be once we cross over, we're going to say, well, we told you so, but you guys didn't do anything. So you know, what do you do? So anyways, thank you so much for coming on, and I would love to have you on again sometime. And I can't wait for whatever else you and Ryder got coming out, and look forward to that and all the other videos that I know you got planned coming out. So
Thank
yeah.
you very, very much. It was great. Thank you so much. And
Oh,
I
you're
will
welcome.
definitely be back.
Oh, awesome. Right on. Thank you so much. All right, people. Make sure you like the video you're watching, share it out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.